Hey, so you haven't seen you for ages.
Hello, hello. How's
Hello.
everyone doing? Hang on, gotta let in all the AI note takers 1 second. All right, cool. Well, if you are here, you survived the eclipse, so that's a great that's a great thing. Awesome. Cool. All right, so thank you for joining me today. I know yesterday you might have had to jump off early for the eclipse or whatever the case is, but I uploaded the replays. So the replays you should have gotten emails. There was a glitch for some reasons. It didn't populate in some accounts. So if that glitch happened, just let us know. I already went through it a couple of times making sure that everyone got it, but anyway, just reach out if you still don't see it and we'll take a look. So the replay should be called AI Sales Bootcamp, by the way. It should be called AI Sales Bootcamp. That one will have the replays from this week. So let me just go ahead and mute everybody so we can have a good recording. And then before we get started today, does anyone have any questions from yesterday or anything that, came up? Did anyone post? I saw a couple of people posted. Crystal, you
Um,
didn't see your post actually yet. Let me see.
I actually reviewed it this morning, so I actually did not post, but I'm going to be posting it. And for some reason, I was getting the issue with per this the AI version oh my God, I
Oh,
can't even say
perplexity.
it. Perplexity. Yes, I was having issue with that one. Like I wasn't sure if it is a free version or the paid version because for whatever reason it was asking me to do the upgrade. So I wanted to ask, is that a free version or
I don't pay for
can we use like
perplexity, so you can
the
keep.
Chrome?
Yeah, I actually don't pay for perplexity, so you can keep the free version. That should be fine. Um, yeah, it shouldn't ask you unless you click maybe like upgrade. Let me play this in. Um, let's see here. So I see, all right, can you guys hear me better? Perfect,
You
great.
sound good.
Okay, so I see a couple of them actually. So let me just highlight really quick. Rich, if you don't mind if I highlight yours,
No, sure.
let
Sounds
me
good.
go in here. Okay, great. So there's a couple of them, and actually Crystal, I just saw yours too. That was really that was really smart. So I'm gonna show you two quick examples. The first one is so Rich, this is a really good one. As you can see here, there's a hook, right? There's an old way, modern way, so you're already kind of creating that like division of like awareness of like, hey, you're probably doing things outdated. And then you have the keyword, and then here you're like highlighting what you could be getting. And as you can see, he got some traction, and then you can see some people are actually commenting the keyword, right? And stuff like that. So if you're in this scenario or if you posted yesterday and you're starting to get some people asking for this, I'm gonna show you today like how to respond. Also, Crystal's is really smart because she tagged me, right? She created about me, which I'm really flattered. But but by doing this, it's also like you're leveraging LinkedIn's algorithm because you're tagging a bigger creator. So the LinkedIn algorithm is gonna push out this piece of content into the people that follow me. And they're gonna see like, oh, Isabel Bedoya was tagged in this post, so now it's gonna open up the vision, right? And then if I like now when I go and comment on this, it's now also going to show across my on the LinkedIn algorithm is going to show it to people also that follow me. And it's going to say Isabel Bedoya commented on this post. Maybe you're interested in this too. So same thing, the hook is there. You did your Crystal personalized it, which is great. And then you have the keyword down here as well. So both ways are I don't know. Anyways, both ways are are really good. So I think it's just a matter of like now trying and testing. Really quick to hear from Rich and Crystal. What was your experience? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? What was the hardships so that everyone in the group can also feel a little bit inspired from you?
I thought it was really,
Oh, Crystal, you're muted for some reason.
oh, am I? Can you
I
hear
can
me
hear
now?
her.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
I
Crystal, yours was brilliant.
Oh, thank you. I thought of, well, the biggest person I know that used AI and got amazing traction is you. So I'm like, who else am I going to use? So I think the thing was going through and, it was not really something that I could pull from, it couldn't pull it from AI because it's not, AI only goes up to a certain date. So I went into your posts and kind of looked for like something that I could work with and show an example of a case study. And then I got to the end, I'm like, yay, I'm done. And then I'm like, oh man, I have to put together something to give them. So I had to kind of think about what could I put together, what would be something that a person, like you said, what is it, a mofu? Tofu?
Yeah, the middle of funnel type of thing.
Yeah, so I tried to think of what would someone in that, point of view want to see as far as, what would be valuable to them. So it took me a little bit of time, but I kind of put it together and there you go.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, that's really smart. What about Rich? What was your experience like?
Yeah, it was good. I think it takes the time to create the lead magnet because you obviously want that to be good. But one side and Gamma is an absolute revelation. You know how long I've been kind of looking at that lead magnet on and off for and got stuck and then just bashed it out in a day. And so I had a little bit of the content. But Gamma is awesome. So I really recommend anybody that's not using that. You can just have a very rough outline of a lead magnet, I guess just a kind of a ChatGPT or a Claude output. And then Gamma will just create all of the images and the layout and make it look really, really slick very, very quickly. So that definitely speeds things up. And then yeah, just kind of following the process, right? So once you've got the lead magnet, then you can kind of create the LinkedIn post from that using all the best copywriting principles in terms of checking the formatting for mobile and good white space and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's achieved quite a few impressions, which is good. Mostly from people in my circle. So maybe not. I think there's a couple of people that might be potential customers. So that's awesome. So yeah, looking forward to today's session and seeing how to capture. Now that those people coming in, kind of, a little bit of a hand raise, how we kind of DM and follow up, which is always where the conversion lies.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know that the first part, right, creating that lead magnet, I know that part is going to be a little time consuming, but once you have it, you can post it all the time. When I created the lead magnet I showed you guys yesterday, the 157,000 case study, I have like used that like at least 30 different times in 30 different places, and it just never gets old. People still keep asking for it. So it's like one of those things that once you have that asset, you can now use it in your YouTube. You can post it once a month. You can, whatever it is. And people always like the one that I don't think I've shared it with you guys, but I do have a post that I was talking about yesterday that it took me 3 times for it to go viral. And that one, I post it usually like once a quarter, and every time it performs really well. Like it got the first couple of times it was like absolutely on the floor. Third time it hit 1 million. The third time it hit like 300K. Then the fourth time also hit around 300K or 200K or something. So it's something that it's always going to perform. That's called a proven piece of content. Once you have a proven piece of content, you can use that over and over and over again because you have indicated that it attracts the right people. But the hardest part is creating it, right? Getting it out of your head and into Gamma or Google Docs or whatever. Robin, you have a question?
Yeah, just about the tagging like a larger creator. Just a side note, like I forgot to tag you first, and then I put you in a comment. I don't know if you actually saw that the same way or if that works the same way. But there's a small caveat also for the LinkedIn algorithm that I think is quite important to mention. Is that if you, as long as you mention, as long as you tag one person, it's fine if that person doesn't react. But as soon as you tag more people, you might be tempted to like tag a few bigger creators. But then the LinkedIn algorithm kind of turns it around and kind of says like you're trying to use me, and so it kind of like downgrades it a little bit. Yeah. And so also, oh, I noticed, Crystal, I didn't see you in the Slack. Otherwise, I would have like commented on your post as well. And I found like again, I don't know, like the algorithm is sort of like a funny business, but the last report kind of said that AI generated images also kind of get like less reach. So like it kind of gets flagged by LinkedIn that it's an AI generated image. So just as a note, like if that's important to you, I noticed.
That's
Like
good.
yeah, so sorry, the question was like, did you see that I tagged you in the comment or not?
I just saw that I checked your post, but I don't know if I got a notification. Let me check my notifications. Oh wait, no, that's
Didn't know if
Rich.
that makes a difference.
Yeah, about 6 hours ago.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. I just haven't been on LinkedIn all morning yet, so
No worries. I was just wondering whether
yeah.
it gets flagged the
That's
same
good.
way.
No, that's awesome. I didn't know the AI generated images. It's really good to know. I guess I don't really post that many, but that is really good to know. And I think ultimately also it boils down on testing because I know a lot of the algorithm is a lot of things, right? Like post at a certain time, do this, don't do that. And I realized that when I was like getting started, that was creating so much constraints and stress. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 5 o'clock. I can't post. Now I have to wait another day. And I just said, you know what? Throw it out the window. Let's just post. Let's see what happens. And and that was the best way to gain the habit, right? To like now if I want to be more strategic with it, of course, but like there's days that I post at like midnight and it's all good. Maybe it'll get like 2,000 impressions, but that's 2,000 more impressions than zero, right? So so I don't really focus too much on like the little daily impressions. I focus on the monthly and not just the monthly, but also like it's always going to be growth. So like that's good. You can never go negative, right? You can't go today you got negative 2,000 impressions. That just doesn't exist. Because you didn't post. That's either you go to zero or you go up from there. So the way that I kind of view it is what I really measure though is leads because I'm not really trying to get like a million brand deals, right? Like I'm not trying to make a living as a influencer. I'm trying to actually build businesses, which I think a lot of you guys are in here too. So ultimately my success factor, what determines that is how many leads can I generate without coming across as like super salesy car salesman, right? That is always trying to sell you something. So so finding that balance is really, really hard, but hopefully today I'm gonna help you share with you like some of the things that I'm doing and maybe from there it can open up your scope as well. Kathleen, last question, then we'll jump into training and then we'll do Q&A at the end.
Yeah, I had a question. Can you use your existing lead magnet and for that post? And then like because I have a case study already, so if I can use that. And then I guess my other question was why does Rich's look so amazing on his little video? What did he use to create his content?
Is that Gamma?
Yeah, it's Gamma.
That's awesome.
I didn't know
So
Gamma could do that. That's
so
amazing.
wait a minute, that what you put up there, Rich, for that you're scrolling through on your video, so, some AI thing created that for you with all the pictures and everything? Like it looks like a web page.
Yeah, well, I guess as with all AI, right? I think the overused cliche is that it makes the cake, you have to ice it, right? So it did a lot of the legwork, and I guess I'm doing some related branding work at the moment. So so I kind of bought some iStock photos and things like that I had kind of ready, just to drop in that are kind of going to be consistent across the different assets that I'm creating. But generally speaking, yeah, it was having the lead magnet structure and the content, and then I probably just spent about 4 or 5 hours on Gamma today, but I kind of started today, and then started playing around with it. And like anything, right, the more you play around with it, kind of you get a little bit more proficient with it.
Wow.
But it's got AI built in, right? So you do a bit, you can just drop some text in, and then you can just kind of click it and then say, make this more visually appealing, or display this as a diagram, and it would, you wait 30 seconds and it just gives you different suggestions. So it's a bit of trial and error, but if you not have dab hand with design graphics or have that kind of capability within the team, that it's a good solution.
So thank you, Rich. So Izzy, with that, making my existing Google Doc that's a lead magnet for me in your systems, couldn't I make it just a little bit more pleasing to the eye with adding photos and everything to it?
Absolutely.
Just through the same kind of process. Is this delivered directly, or is this delivered through capturing an email?
No, you would still have to provide the shareable link like a Google Doc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's really cool, Rich. You're using it even more advanced than I am. Yeah, that's really awesome. So, okay, so let's jump into today's training, just because this is Gamma, by the way. So just to kind of cover what we have gone through so far. So today we're gonna talk a little bit more on like B2C lead gen, but before we start covering that, I'm gonna touch on the whole appointment setting. This appointment setting part, you can use it not just for B2C but for B2B if it's inbound. So I'll share with that a little bit in a little bit. I think you guys already know who I am at this point. but yeah, if you need a refresher, you'll have this slide deck. You can also read through that or watch yesterday's replay. So just to recap, yesterday we talked about this whole sales funnel. So the sales funnel, essentially, when you start a conversation with someone, when you're reaching out to them or when they're following you or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to buy. Only like 3% of people are ready to buy in your industry. So that means that you have, what's the math? 97%? Yeah, 97% you have to put them into buckets. And realistically, 30% of that 97% are just never going to buy, right? So, or of the 100%. So 30% of the people that are looking at your content are never going to buy. And then you have 67 that need to be nurtured. And that 67%, you nurture them through figuring out if they are problem aware, if they are solution aware, or creating content that can actually educate them into changing the way that they're doing things or thinking about things. And then ultimately giving them call to actions to see if they're actually willing to buy. So we covered this a little bit in greater detail yesterday, but ultimately it's important to know because that's how your lead cycle starts, right? So, and when you're trying to grow a business, there's really just 2 ways to grow your business. You can either increase your prices or you can increase the volume of sales that you generate. So it means you increase your prices or you increase your lead flow. Those are the 2 ways to grow your business. Some people will be a little hesitant or maybe like scared to raise their prices. And some people just understand, it is what it is. This is the price that we offer and we just need to increase our lead flow. So how do we do that? Well, ultimately, the best way to generate sales and the best way to generate opportunities is to create trust. And I guess one of the easiest ways to create trust is by sharing valuable, insightful, and helpful content. So when you look you can look at my LinkedIn, for example. When you look at all the posts that I make, the majority of them, about maybe like 80% of them or 90% of them, I'm always sharing lessons, things I learned, little tips on how to improve. I'm like crushing like belief systems. So I know, for example, in the SaaS space, I know that a lot of people are doing a lot of webinars, and webinars featuring a guest isn't going to generate more sales for them. So then I create a post and I'm like, webinars suck, right? Here's what you need to do instead. And because I'm engaging with that type of audience, then that post resonated and it was like a direct post to like challenge their belief system and to get them to understand that what you're doing, because you don't know like you can't really envision anything outside of your scope. You don't really know what else is out there. So a lot of the times, you know, when we come in as outside help for a lot of these companies, businesses, whatever, we have a completely different perspective than they do when they're in the trenches in their day-to-day. Their vision is very limited to what they know. So that's the kind of stuff that you can start posting. So I learned this whole entire, I guess, strategy from, I don't know if you guys know Tanner Chittister. So Tanner Chittister grew a business, a coaching business, up to 100 million in the last like 5 years. And the way he scaled was through DMs. The more conversations you have, the more conversions you have. The thing is, because he is basically one of the main creators of this whole thing, everybody now puts this in their coaching programs. So what happens is it got diluted, because you can tell when someone reaches out to you, they start with the same script and they use the same script, and then it becomes very, very, I don't know, it just becomes like, you know, that a pitch is coming. So I have refined everything I have learned. I've learned sales from like multiple people, from Tanner Chittister, from Jeremy Miner, also great person, and a couple of others. And the one thing that I think ultimately boils down is understanding the phases, because a lot of the times when you take sales programs and coaching programs, you'll get handed scripts, but until you understand why you're asking those questions, you never will understand the sales process. Today I'm going to show you a little bit more about that. But the point of the whole thing is, like, you do have to be starting conversations, whether you start conversations with your content or with Zoom meetings or webinars, you know, virtual events, boot camps, whatever, or DMs. You need to start like actually get in the habit of starting conversations, because the more people that you speak with, the more opportunities you will generate. And I think a lot of the times, you know, you have to also think about, you only have a limited amount of time in the day. So how do you do this at scale? And this is where like some people will start running ads and whatever it is. So if you kind of think about it before going into all the tactics and strategies, the first thing that you need to start thinking about for your sales process and your lead generation process is, who is your ideal client? If you're not clear on who you're reaching out to or who you're targeting, you're not going to be clear on like a lot of the things. You're not going to know what questions to ask. You're not going to know if that's going to be you know, someone that is going to end up booking a call or whatever it is. So you have to start with the basics. Who is your ideal client? Do you have access to that type of avatar? Or do you have access to people that have access to those types of people? So those are the two types of ways really to focus on. Do you know people that could be ideal clients, or do you have access to people that have access to your ideal clients? So for example, so Rich is selling like HR, pretty much recruitment, right? So let's say that tomorrow I launch a recruitment offer. Do I have access to those people? No, but I could figure out a way to work with Rich to work with his audience. You know what I mean? So you have to figure out who, and those are usually called affiliates, right? Like affiliates, joint ventures, stuff like that. Who do you have access to right now, and who do you have access to that has access to those people? You can put a list of 10 or 20 people that come to mind. A lot of times you have the people already in your circle and you just haven't reached out or thought about it, but you can definitely brainstorm. And towards the end of today, that's pretty much gonna be like one of the homework pieces. But you want to brainstorm top 10 or top 20 people that come to mind, and that fit these two criteria: who has access to your client and who is a potential client. Now, in terms of lead gen, there's really limitless tactics. So and not just limitless, like there's constantly people innovating and inventing, right? So you just have to understand that there's multiple ways to do this. You are not in scarcity. Like, there is an overabundance of ways to do lead gen. You just have to figure out what is going to resonate the most with you. For example, you can send DMs, direct messages, right? Private messages. You can send DMs on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can't send DMs on YouTube, but you can send comments and stuff like that. Facebook, TikTok, you know, you name it. You can send out cold emails. Usually, to start, you can send 10 cold emails a day per domain. That's a whole other strategy. You can send in-mails. You can send 149 in-mails per month using Sales Navigator. You can build out affiliate programs, right? So like people that have access to your leads, or people that have access to potential clients, and you can give up 10, 20% of your revenue to them for referring people to you. You can run paid ads, you can do cold calling, you can search Reddit groups, Facebook groups, you can join masterminds, you can attend in-person networking events, you can do virtual events, which is my favorite one. I'll cover this towards the end of today. But as you can see, there's really a lot of ways to do this, right? It's just a matter of who is it that you're reaching out to and what is the channel that you're going to use. And the way that I like to classify it is, if you don't really like sales calls, then focus on doing virtual events. If you do like sales calls, focus on appointment setting. And if you want to maximize growth, do both virtual events and appointment setting. Right? So really it's up to you and how fast you want to grow. Ultimately, if you don't like sales calls, virtual events, my first 6 figures, I hated sales calls, so I didn't do a single sales call. It was all virtual events. Still, till this day, I really like try to stay away from sales calls as much as possible. And then appointment setting, we do this every so often, especially when we're like testing different offers to see what's, resonating. But ultimately, everyone's going to be different. Some people like speaking in crowds, other people like absolutely hate it. Pick whatever works for you. And then, yeah, if you want to maximize growth, make sure that you're doing both. So there is no wrong answer. Test it, reiterate as needed. Now, in getting into the whole appointment setting side of things, so let me see here. Is there a suggested limit to how many of these tactics you do? Just pick one. Pick one and run with that and see and measure results. I'll break that down in just a few more slides. I think yesterday we talked about how a follower does not equal a lead, right? A lead is someone that actually displays interest in what you're doing. So your role is to understand who is your ideal clients, what type of clients are getting the best results through you. And if you haven't launched anything yet, then this will be like a testing ground for you to see the things that you're doing, who's getting the best results, how can you simplify and go from there. But initially, you want to understand who is your ideal client, and you want to figure out what are things that are going to qualify or disqualify them from your offers. So the number one thing that people always figure out as a qualifier is money, right? Can they afford you? Yes or no? And that is the biggest disqualifier, or qualifier. But I'm going to show you in just a couple of slides how to improve this whole thing. And this whole entire section is really just how good can you become at becoming a conversationalist? Because if you're reading scripts, you're going to be limited to the script. But if you become a conversationalist, you're now able to turn those conversations, dig deeper without having to sound like super pushy or nosy or anything like that. Make sense so far? All right, cool. So an outbound message is when you're sending a message out, right? Inbound is when you're receiving a message. So when you're sending a message out, if you're sending a connection request, you're sending an outbound message. It's going out. And these are a couple of ways that I have, kind of like the top 4 ways that I have systemized, I guess, my outbound icebreakers. Number 1 is if we have a mutual connection. So, let's say I got on a call with actually Kathleen, right? We just did a summit together. So I would reach out like, hey, Crystal, I just got done recording a summit with Kathleen. She recommended I reach out to you. Looks like we have a lot of similarities. Are you also in the AI space? Or you can kind of also see that from their profile. So you can also ask like something maybe a little bit more specific. But now I mentioned Kathleen, I mentioned AI, I mentioned, all these things. And now Crystal's going to be like, oh yeah, I know Kathleen. I love Kathleen. Right? And now immediately we have an icebreaker. Also, if like so this is like how you can do like a mutual connection, someone that it's already in like their good graces, and then coming from you is going to be like, oh, well, if Kathleen, was talking to Isabella, then Isabella must be cool too. So then it's human behavior psychology. And then the continual comment is if you start a conversation in someone's post and you're commenting back with each other and you're like, I don't know, like, hey, Robin, I saw your opinion on Rich's post about the dream team. It seems like there's a lot of misconceptions with hiring out there. Would it be helpful if I sent you over a Google Doc with best practices? Right? So now you're offering value, and it's most likely your case study as well. Compliment. Hey John, your TEDx was brilliant. Simplicity of a sign is wait, what is it? Simplicity is a sign of genius, and I couldn't agree more. Right? And then here you can ask, I forgot to add a question here, but you can ask an insightful question leading back to what they do. So you go through their profile and see what they're up to. but we actually used this one a lot when we were testing out the video offer when we were doing video marketing 2 years ago. I would reach out to people on LinkedIn and I would look them up on YouTube. I would look at their TEDx. I would go to the middle of the TEDx or towards the end, watch for 2 minutes, grab a blurb from there, take it back to LinkedIn, you know, hey, such and such, watch your TEDx. That was such a good point. Couldn't agree more. By the way, you know, X, Y, and Z, whatever insightful question you want to ask. Also, like something relatable. It's still top of funnel. They don't know you yet. And then the last one, which is the one that you guys are probably going to be using this week. Hey, Name, I saw you asked for the case study about whatever. Did you still want a copy of it? So this is important. Did you still want a copy of it? Because you want to ask, you don't like, you want to ask, you want to frame the conversation with, you have to reply to me. Like you have to reply to me. You just have to train them from the start. You got to reply to me if you want that. Otherwise, if you share it, then they're not going to reply. They're just going to click it. And then there's no two-way conversation happening. And then it's just going to be annoying because now you have to follow up and all these things. So all good so far? Love it. Okay, great. All right, so now, Crystal, you have a question?
Yeah, I did. So when I've been sending people their the checklist that I created, it literally was like 5 minutes ago that they asked for it. And so I'd feel kind of weird to say, did you still want a copy of it?
Yeah, so you would send this all in one message. But if you already sent it, I'm going to show you how to revive that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Rich, question?
Yeah, so I guess something I found is that when you have people asking for it who aren't a first degree connection, I just started saying, can you send me a connection request so I can DM you? How do you normally approach that?
So if you're like the people that are reaching out to you, like on the comments?
Yeah, so if someone comments saying, yeah, dream team, but they're not a first degree connection, rather than me sending them a connection request, I just started putting in. I mean, I suppose if they were an ICP, I'd be more than happy. You know, if they were my ideal customer, I guess that's probably the answer is how you triage it. If they're high value, then you make the first outreach for the connection, or say something like, I guess you could reply in the comments. I've sent you a connection request. Please accept it so I can DM you the guy, something like that. And then for anybody that's not an ideal customer, you ask them to send you a connection request.
Yeah, or you just start posting it in the comments.
Oh, what, the link?
Yeah, but you want to give it like, I usually, I've tested this a couple of times. When I share the link right away, when people start commenting and I share the link right away, people stop commenting because the link is available.
Yeah.
So I usually like to wait like 4 to 6 hours and not even like don't be like so strict on that. You can be a little bit more, a little bit less, doesn't matter. But yeah, I usually wait like if I post at 2, I'll wait till like the evening and they'll say, okay, now I'll start replying because I also have to block out like 1 hour to like reply to everybody, right? But what you can do is the people that start replying, if they're first degrees, you can just send them a DM and send them the same thing, like, hey, saw you asked the case study, do you still want a copy? Send that to your first degrees, and then in the comment section say, hey, I just DM'd you. So the people that aren't first degrees, they either know, where is it? Oh, I gotta DM you, or they'll still post in the comments asking for it. So when you start replying to everybody, you just start dropping the link, and then the whole idea is to, 1, it's boosting engagement, it's boosting your visibility, and 2, you have to use this as a time to now scan through all the people to see who looks like ideal clients.
Yeah. Okay. I hadn't thought about posting the link in the comments at all, actually.
Okay, yeah.
I guess. I guess it makes sense to do so because it's just becomes a point where it's not worth it.
Yeah, and then that's why also around your documents you'll have your call to actions of where to find you, how to connect with you, where to book a call, whatever it is that you're pointing them to. So even if it does get out, people will still have call to actions within it. On
your example one, if I remember rightly, because someone gave me some feedback and said, hey, your call to actions right at the bottom. It's too far away. I think on yours do you have multiple calls of action or just one?
I have multiple. I have it towards the top and then I have one at the end.
Right.
But the one at the end is like more persuasive now. So the top is like, by the way, if you want to skip this whole thing, schedule a call with us here. You can, explore this together. And towards the end, it's like, oh, if you want to be one of the first 100,000 businesses in the world that actually implements using AI, and you want to be a part of the future, and you want to be a visionary, and blah blah blah, then why don't you schedule a call and let's explore what's possible. So it's a little bit more persuasive, tapping into those the psychology behind it. But the one at the very top is just like a soft call to action.
Is that on one of the examples you shared yesterday, like the 50K MMR and the ClickFunnels?
I think in the SaaS growth one, in the ClickFunnels one.
I'll have a look at that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that one I even break down the math. I even break down the math, and I'm like, this is how much money you're leaving on the table. Like, just have a conversation with me. So yeah, you can be more persuasive towards the end. So those are all great questions. How many times do we use these strategies? I think the tactics, just pick one and stick with that. And yeah, so this is all traffic coming off of LinkedIn. So depending on like what stage they're at, if they're first degrees, and those are the people that you have access to right now. If they're second degrees, those are the people that you have to figure out. If there's a lot of them, who are the ideal ones, because you can only send out 20 requests a week. A day, 20 requests a day. Otherwise, getting them to DM you, that's also another thing. A lot of times though, they'll just connect with you just because they're like, I really want that. A lot of times they'll reach out to you as well. All right, so going into the lead qualification process. So number one is you never want to make it about you, your service, or your product unless you're prompted to. So never say, here's my PDF. By the way, I can run leads for you. Would you like to schedule a call? Don't lead with that. You want to establish a ground, and you also want to qualify, because you don't want to spend like all afternoon talking to people that just are never going to hire you. So you have to qualify. Always make it about them. So look at their LinkedIn, research them. Even a quick Google search of your name will tell you a lot of information about people usually. Or you can just look at their LinkedIn, see what they're interested in, and try to establish that common ground. Don't read from a script. Understand the framework that I'm going to show you right now. So if you read from a script, you're limited to the script, and the conversations vary. There is no two conversations that are the same. Every conversation is different because every single person is different. So when you understand the framework, then you understand that the questions vary. So the first thing that you want to figure out is, how do you provide value? That's why I love the case study one, because it eliminates a lot of the whole relationship part. Like you hyper speed the relationship by providing value. You're now giving them a piece of valuable content. They are now gaining more trust into you, and now you can now figure out pain points, or what problems are they actually having. How can you help them solve that? Any goals or motivations they have, what's working for them, what's not working for them, what have they tried in the past, and any logistics, like who are the decision makers involved, do they have budget set aside. And if all these things are met, if you have problems that match your solutions, if they're open to change, because sometimes people are not open to change. If they're open to change, and if they have budget set aside, those are the ones you get on a call with. Make sense? Yeah, okay, good. So here is a sample script. Don't follow this word for word, just understand. So let's just say, I'm going to say like, hey, name, I saw you asked for the case study about XYZ. Did you still want a copy of it? They're going to say, yes, sure. Here's the link. Insert your link. Now, Crystal, you can revive it starting with this part, right? So like just change the beginning. But this is where now you try to figure out what is it that they're struggling with. And you have control of this because you understand also your product. So here you would ask, of course, by the way, would you prioritize pain point 1 or pain point 2? Which one would you prioritize more right now? So these things are going to vary based on your case study. And then you can say, I might be able to help with that, or at least point you in the right direction. Is it okay if I ask you some questions? So you now open up the permission stage. And then from there is, what do you believe is your biggest challenge? So believe is important because they believe this, right? So we have to understand, what are they believing? And then they're, what do you believe is your biggest challenge right now with customer acquisition? They're going to say, I need to generate more leads. What are you doing now to generate more leads? And they're going to rattle off everything they're doing. Is it working? Are you happy with the results? This is important because you have to also, by asking this question, they're taking a second to reflect, like, no, actually, I'm not happy with the results. But until they think that, they're not going to be aware if they're happy or not. So that's why these questions are asked in this order. And then you would ask, like, what's your goal behind this? Are you trying to hit a certain revenue milestone or something else? And then I particularly like to ask this question because what happens is when usually people will say, oh, I'm trying to hit a revenue milestone. Then you ask, what's the milestone? And in a ninja way, you're asking for budget, right? Because what's your milestone? 100K a month. And where are you at now? 10K a month. So now you can understand, like, okay, this person probably has some access to capital. And then here's where you build the gap. So you want to generate an additional 90K a month. You're trying cold email, LinkedIn. You're just parroting back what they told you, but try to summarize it, right? Don't write an essay back. You want to generate an additional 90K. You're trying cold email, LinkedIn, etc. Still not getting the results you want. Now here's where you add value. Usually your 0 to 10K strategy is going to be different than your 10K to 100K a month strategy. For example, to go from 0 to 10K, you need a 1 appointment setter. But going from 10K to 100K, you'll need to improve volume and optimize your outreach to maximize conversions. And now this is where you go, so this is all gap and value. And then here you ask, are you open to improving your strategies to see if you can achieve different results? Because if they're not open to change, then it's just going to be a miserable experience for everyone involved. But if they are open to change, then now you can actually possibly help them. So then here is where you would now do like a soft pitch. Would you be open to getting a call to explore if we can possibly help? And after they say yes, then you say, I'll send you a calendar link shortly. You have 2 more questions to get out of the way. I'll send you a calendar link shortly. By the way, who's involved in the decision-making process? Is it just you? So now you have like access to capital, sort of. You have decision makers. And then now you ask, do you think they'll be able to get on the call? Yes, right? And if not, then you say, well, we have to find a time that works for everyone. And then lastly, now you go in for like the final confirmation. Did you have a budget set aside to invest in outside support, outside help, whatever? That's when normally they'll ask, what's the price? And then here you can give a little blurb of your prices if you want to, or if you want to, just be transparent, whatever, totally up to you. But that way you let people know that you have different things at different stages and you can help them. But on the call, you'll be able to figure out specifically how, right? So here it says, generally, it depends on how we can help. And if we can even help, but typically our services range 500 a month to 10K a month. Either way, we'll figure out a specific strategy based on your scenario and then figure out what makes most sense for you based on your situation. Sounds fair? And then from there, cool. Now that you have budget out of the way, you have decision makers out of the way, you understand if you can help them, etc., etc., etc. You send your calendar link and then remind them to bring their decision maker buddy, right? If they don't have budget scenario, then it's not a lost case, because if they don't have budget, then you say, I understand. Let me ask you something. Do you know anyone else in your circle who we might be able to help? You're asking referral. And then, oh, I don't know, maybe they have money to invest though. So you go, okay, cool. Would you be opposed to connecting us? That way, if we find that we are able to help them and they become a client, I can send you a referral commission, which will help you create more revenue as well. So it's a win-win for all involved. If you went through all that conversation and they still don't have money, now you have created a vehicle for them to at least figure out how to monetize their network by sending them to you. Does that make sense? Any questions? Now, all conversations are not going to go like this. Remember, this is very like, yes, yes, yes. A lot of people are going to ghost you, or they're going to leave you hanging, or they're going to be more difficult, and that's fine. But once you understand these phases, then you can kind of take it from there. So I created, on the next page, I created the template, which is kind of like the things that you really need to change if you were to use this as a script. And then let's take this into ChatGPT. Oops, chat. Excuse me. All right, so the prompt, you guys already probably have this one from yesterday. We're going to use the same one. And what I'm going to ask on the second page is, on the second page, I'm going to copy this whole thing. And what you're going to do is see how it says insert template. So we're going to scroll up to the template and we're going to copy this whole thing. And we're going to go where it says insert template. We just paste the whole thing and then scroll down where it says insert example. We're going to copy this whole thing. And that should work. So as soon as it's done generating, that should work. All right, it's almost done.
What
Any
about the last,
questions so far?
what about the last section where you have the example there?
Yeah. So I just copied the whole conversation example into here. So I copied the template. So the prompt is below is my template and an example of my template in use. You will create, that's a typo. You will use my template to create a sample script for my ideal buyer persona. Fill in the brackets with relevancy to the ideal buyer persona. So that's why I started the first prompt so that we can be on the same page and I don't have to like rewrite everything. So now it's writing my little script here. So see how it says, of course, would you prioritize streamlining marketing data analysis or enhancing? So these questions is something that you're going to have to go in and like update, but at least it gives you a flow, example of the flow. And the next question is, now you're going to create a bank of questions that you can have. Whoops. You're going to create a bank of questions. Uh-oh. Here it is. You're going to create a bank of questions that you can just have in your back pocket. So as you're going through conversations, you always have, that's what this whole prompt is saying. So you can always have questions that you can ask if you ever get stuck or whatever it is. And here, okay, it's done. So yeah, you can have all the questions it's going to generate, and then based off of that, while that's doing that, I'll continue. So what you want to do is you want to turn this into a daily habit. You want to set aside like at least 1 or 2 hours per day to actually reach out to people or comment back or whatever it is. In the beginning, I know you'll be tempted to delegate this to an SDR or a VA, but don't do that, because in order for you to be able to delegate that, you need to have your own process. You need to have examples. You need to have your tone of voice, everything, so that when you delegate this, they can replicate from what you've done. Because ultimately, like, this is like how I would have that conversation, but maybe you might ask a different question just because that's your personality, and that's fine as long as you're getting the stages right. So just make sure that you do this in the beginning at least a couple of times successfully, and then you can hire someone. Then you want to make sure that you're sending about 10 to 20 personalized DMs daily. If you send anything more than that, you're not personalizing enough. So because it's really hard to get to 20. So at least send 10. In an hour, you can easily knock off 10. And remember, these are targeted, right? So you're looking at their profiles, you're seeing if they're actually going to be ideal clients. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting theirs as well. And you can then aim for 1 to 3 qualified appointments daily. Then you can follow up and reactivate old conversations or conversations that went stale. Pretty much they went nowhere. But don't just say, hey, following up on the above. You always want to add more value. Like, did you ever get a chance to look at that case study? So Crystal, you could reactivate like this. Did you ever get a chance to look at that case study? Just if you sent it 5 minutes ago, wait till like 8 p.m. or tomorrow. Did you ever get a chance to look at that case study? I'm working on part 2. Would you like a copy when it's done? Or did you ever get a chance to look at that? I'm working on new content. Anything specific you want for me to cover? So you're in other ways, you're asking for pain points without saying like, do you have pain points? Do you have challenges? Because a lot of times people won't respond to that. They know that a pitch is coming. So yeah, it's the same exact process, right? If you've ever taken like any of these sales courses, it's the same process. It's just different ways of asking the same questions. And then you want to practice. So going back to what ChatGPT created, it created a bank of questions based on interests, preferences, pain points, goals and motivations, past attempts, open to change, decision making. So if you don't like the way that I said something, now ChatGPT has created a abundance of ways for you to do it. And if you want more, just ask for more. But ultimately, I think one important thing, and ChatGPT highlights it here, you have to listen, right? You can't just skip through their answers and say, okay, cool, yeah, let me book you on a call. You have to listen. Like if they're saying like, yeah, I'm trying to create a video, but I suck on video, then you have to listen and you say, okay, great. Well, don't say great, but say, well, how can you be better? Or what would make you, gain more confidence? So you start becoming more conversationalist, but also by asking some of these questions, you're also becoming their trusted advisor. And that's the most important thing. Trust is the ultimate form of currency. Once you gain trust, you can now, help them. So ultimately, you're going to optimize your approach. If you're not booking appointments, chances are you're either not starting enough or your conversations are dropping off. So you have to figure out why are they dropping off. Go through your content, look at your DMs with like really like a magnifying glass. What did you say? What did you ask? Who did you speak to? See what happens. See the successful ones, compare the ones to the ones that weren't successful. This is where you become a little mad scientist because you have to look at profiles and stuff like that to start getting a better understanding. But all this busy work is what makes it, faster and better over time. So from there, if you do attract leads, but they are not quality leads, aka no budget, figure out if your content or your case study has language that does that. If really quick example, if I say, let me show you how to generate leads, it's going to acquire a completely different avatar as if I said, let me help you acquire new clients. It's two like same exact thing, but the way that it's worded, it like attracts a different persona. So you have to be mindful of the language that you use. And a lot of the times that's why you want to talk to people so you understand how are they referring to things. When AI came out, I reached out to a bunch of CMOs. CMOs were saying, I don't want to get left behind. I don't want to get left behind. So guess what? In my marketing, I started saying, if you're a CMO and don't want to get left behind, here's what you need to do. I get like I'm actively getting my language from my ideal buyers. And that's exactly what you need to learn how to do. And you do that by speaking with them, right? So the more you speak to people, the more data, the more opportunities, and the more potential sales. Then you want to measure how many referrals you're getting. Referrals, in my opinion, is also a really great way because it's trusted. Transference of trust is the word. You're transferring someone else is transferring their trust when they refer you. What that means is like, what I mentioned earlier. I was on a podcast with Kathleen. Kathleen now refers me to someone else because they like Kathleen, they might like me too. So that's what transference of trust. Referrals is a great way to do that. And if you're not getting replies, if you're getting ghosted or whatever it is, just understand that a lot of the times people are busy and they're blasted every single day. And sometimes you just have to follow up, right? So that's why you want to focus on building trust, because once you build trust, you build leverage. And then once you build trust, you also earn respect. And if they don't reply, they're going to tell you like, sorry, I couldn't reply. I was doing this or whatever. So by building trust, it's also you're building respect for people not to just shoo you away like a fly. So that's also very important. Now, how do we build relationships at scale? Hang on, I think there's some stuff in the chat. So any key takeaways or offers? Yeah, so for referrals, I usually, depending on what it is, I usually do 10 to 20%. If it's a lot on the done for you side where we have a lot of expenses, we have to pay people, I keep it at 10%. But if it's like a course that it's like once it's created, there's not really a lot of operations cost behind it, then I do 20%. I mean, if you compare it to like ad spend, your ad spend is going to be anywhere from 10 to 30%. So it's essentially ad spend. Yeah, so Sales Navigator tomorrow. We'll talk about Sales Navigator tomorrow. That's a good one. Right now we're just talking about like, I guess more on the surface level of LinkedIn, people that are coming to you, outbound through you without going through Sales Nav. So going into virtual events, this is my personal way to build relationships at scale because you can do these Zoom meetings like the one we're at now, and we can build a lot of trust, rapport, all of that in a short amount of time, right? Like right now we're doing a 5-day boot camp. From where you are now to where you get to in 5 days, it's going to be so much value that we're all going to feel a lot closer. You're going to already know so much more information. You put it into practice, you're going to get results. You're going to gain more trust in me, right? So this is why these kind of things are important. But if I just came at you with like a DM and no boot camp, maybe you might not have the same likability trust score that you have with me at the end of this boot camp, right? So it's different. That's why you also want to incorporate virtual events, because you can get access to the people in a group setting, so you don't have to do a bunch of one-on-one coffee chats. And there's a bunch of the ways that you can do this. You can do summits, boot camps, challenges, right? Like 5 days. The challenges is really, really impactful, I think, also in the health space, right? Like, there's a lot of people that do challenges also in the digital marketing space, like, build a funnel with me in 5 days or less. It's a challenge. Then you have webinars, roundtables. I'll talk more about roundtables tomorrow, but that's what you want to use for B2B. And how do you actually host the virtual event? So I'll give you some tidbits right now, but usually this is the stuff that we specialize in. So the way that you want to think about a virtual event is you want to figure out what is your end outcome, what do you actually want to happen from that event. Try to host at least once a month, once a quarter even, but once a month, so you're in front of your people always. The reason why I like virtual events is because your content attracts leads inbound. Your content not just only attracts leads inbound, but attracts leads that pay a small amount of money to join. So you're already earning money from this scenario, right? You get a bunch of prospects together in one Zoom. You're able to interact with all of them at once. You're able to do market research at scale. So right now, if I want to run a poll and I can ask you any questions, you guys are all going to tell me. And now I'm going to have more answers and more data to go in my marketing, right? And you can completely ditch the one-to-one coffee chats, because a lot of times that's what we get pitched, right? Hey, we are in the same field. Connect with me. Let's get on a coffee chat. So you can ditch that. A lot of the time is just wasted time. And usually one of the people on the coffee chat has an agenda. They either want to sell you or usually they want to sell you something. So for this to happen, you'll need Zoom, clearly, how we're on here right now. You'll need funnels, like the sales pages that you guys signed up with to be in here. And you need automated email and SMS reminders, like the emails and text messages that you're receiving. If you want to take it one step further, you'll need AI voice agents, which we'll talk about on Thursday. That will help you increase show-up rates, set appointments, and qualify for you. And then we'll just dive in deeper on Thursday. But essentially, that is, tomorrow we'll dive in deeper on roundtable virtual events. So I recommend doing both. Take one virtual event and then do DMs in between. And then DMs can also, your free case study is used as a lead magnet, right? Something that you're giving away for free of value. Your event could also be like, if you're doing a free event, you could also use that as a lead magnet as well.